All right, I am turning down my soundtrack for a second. And if you want the full vibe, including my Tom Petty, yes, you guessed it, I'm listening to I Won't Back Down. If you want that energy and all the episode feels, be sure to check out golden.state.slp playlist on Spotify. It's the Morning Commute podcast here, and I Won't Back Down. I feel like it's just the perfect song for the vibes of this episode as we're jumping in. Hey, friends, welcome back. I'm Stephanie Michele Sweigart. I'm out here in Los Angeles, California. Just dropped my daughter off at school and I got back and got my cup of mushroom coffee. And I am just ready to do this thing with all of you guys as you are starting your workday or on your lunch break or on your way home, wherever you may be. I'm just so happy to be here with you guys. I really thought this podcast would be special for school-based professionals who just want less stress and more impact in their workday. So I want you to now think about this. Imagine September hits, right? Your inbox explodes with referrals, and every teacher suddenly thinks every kid needs speech, and you only work 2 days a week. Yeah. Okay. So that was me this past year. And if that sounds stressful, just wait, because today we're diving into something that I think we all dread, which is difficult conversations. And that could be with teachers or parents or sometimes even other staff. But it's those conversations that sort of make your heart race or your palms sweat or your brain go, oh, not this again. And let's be real, if you're like me, your stomach tightens just thinking about that one teacher who maybe always challenges your plan, or that parent who emails, 10 times a week, or that principal who just questions your voice of authority. You might be thinking, why me? Or I can't handle one more of these emails again today. Then I want you to know, yep, I see you and I feel you and you are not alone. And by the end of this episode, I'm hoping you're going to take these practical strategies to navigate these conversations with more clarity, awareness, compassion, more confidence, so that both teachers and parents feel heard and you feel heard and boundaries are respected. And most importantly, the students' needs are going to come first. Plus, I'll give you a little micro exercise that you can do on your commute. So let's do it. Let's jump right in. So let's get real for a second. Collaboration with teachers, with parents can feel like juggling flaming swords. Okay. Some common pain points that I think maybe you'll relate to or that we run into are scheduling conflicts. I don't know if you've hit that, where like therapy times versus classroom routines or special events that are going on just seem to collide and not work out, or statewide testing, or maybe we've got, some challenges with AAC carryover. I know this is a big one. I know in the school I was in, I would look around and think, wow, maybe the devices could be used more often and more consistently in the classroom. You might have challenges with IEP misunderstandings. We talked a lot in the last episode about IEP conflict and challenges. Or you might have, this has happened to me, I speak from experience, where teachers kind of schedule assessments, or they're telling families that we need things or that they need speech assessments without checking in with us first. Does that sound familiar to anybody? Another challenge might be, teachers giving away control. Sometimes they've been there for years and years. They like to do everything themselves. They don't always loop us in, which can sometimes create this us versus them feeling, like not a true team. We might have challenges with parent pressures. So parents are, they're really pushing for progress, of course, or request changes based on what they hear from teachers or from online research, or maybe they're hitting up ChatGPT now as their therapist at home and they're not consulting with us. All of this isn't just logistics, it's emotionally exhausting. So you're trying to be the calm professional in the room while your brain is screaming and your schedule is packed and you're literally carrying the weight of student progress on your shoulders. I see that. I know how it feels. I've had all of these challenges and then some. Feel free to shoot me some of your challenges in a DM over at Instagram at golden.state.slp, or you can, leave a review below. But I know we all have them. I know we have those challenges. And here's the thing. What happens in the classroom sort of rolls over into parent expectations, right? Like if a teacher makes a change without you, and then the parent sees it, reacts, and then suddenly you're in the middle of this communication mess. I think that's why the processes that I teach and share, having a clear, nonviolent communication-based approach can be so powerful because it's going to keep you calm and it's going to ensure that we've got more clarity and we're bringing everybody into the same page. Let's kick it off with like a real life example of a scenario, and this might sound familiar. So I'm going to go back again to my last year that I just kind of blipped on. And I want to tell you about my last school year. I'm at an elementary site. It's 2 days a week in Southern California. I've got one of my absolute favorite SLPAs with me. She's seeing the kids. I'm doing all the assessments, all the IEPs, the paperwork, all the things that are not the therapy. And I'm brand new to this school, not to the district, but to this particular school, after them having a lot of turnover, like a revolving door energy. But the kindergarten teachers, they've been there. They've been there a long time, like forever. Same faces, same reputation, same stories. And yes, I was a little warned, just wait until the kinder start referring, or if they can be very demanding, or they tell parents to request speech directly, or they go above the SLPs, just a heads up. I kind of got a little bit of a lowdown. And I thought, okay, I've done this before, no problem. I can handle this. So cue to, September, school barely started, and suddenly it's like the sky opens up and referral forms just start raining down and giving all these like no arc vibes, right? Like, except I didn't get the memo to bring a boat, and I'm standing there 2 days a week on campus, testing already, stacked, trying to support the caseload I already have. And here comes the kinder referrals and waves and rainstorms and just flooding. And here's the thing that makes it extra frustrating. A lot of these kids don't actually need speech. Many were showing developmentally appropriate speech sound errors, the kind of thing that just literally resolves with time. Let's be patient. The exact conversation no teacher wants to hear, but it's just facts. But the kinder teachers had already told the parents, ask for speech. Speech was also this backdoor way into services that, so that they didn't have to wait for RTI in some situations RTI brings these classroom supports, but there's this whole process for, RTI, and it can take a long time. And speech kind of became this shortcut. It's this golden ticket. It's a thing that might get them into special education eyes faster. I don't know if this happens at any of your sites. So now I've got 3, I think, kindergarten teachers looking at me like a lot of children in their class should basically be in speech therapy like yesterday. And meanwhile, I'm trying to balance the assessments already on my plate, IEP stacked back to back, like sit down and take off mentality at the start of school because things happen fast and it's go time, right? Buckle up. Here we go. And I'm also juggling my other students who do need the support and, managing an SLPA who is supporting them. And it's just my 2-day-a-week schedule is what I'm trying to say is really, really packed. And I'm over here like, okay, I can't manufacture extra Tuesdays for Wednesdays because those are the days I work. So it was frustrating. It was annoying. It was incredibly time consuming. And honestly, it was just kind of draining to constantly be the one saying, no, that's actually, that's developmental, that's typical. No, we can't use speech to bypass RTI. No, an assessment isn't automatically appropriate, because someone's worried. So that's the reality of what I was up against right away, beginning of the year, referral flood season. And you feel it. You feel it in your nervous system. You feel the pressure from the teachers, the expectations that come from the parents, and, you're trying to stand in your professional expertise while also not becoming the villain of kindergarten. Like, I don't want any more enemies. Like, I really honestly want to get along with everybody. And I'm trying my best to do that, right? Like, I've done things wrong for years when I started out my career. I know that I don't want these broken relationships. I want everybody to be happy. I know everybody's needs matter. So I'm going to talk a little later in this episode about how I navigated those conversations, how I set the boundaries, and how I use this compassionate communication, the frameworks, instead of just kind of like snapping under the pressure. But I wanted you to kind of hear that story first, because if you've ever been buried in September referrals without a boat in sight, yeah, same. If you've ever been buried in referrals or emails, wondering how you're going to get everything done, or you've felt like the bad guy, just for doing your job, Yes, I see you, and you're not alone in feeling this pressure. No shade on teachers here. Truly, if you're a teacher listening, yes, you. This applies to you too. I think navigating, you're going to be navigating your own communication challenges and pressures and expectations. And I see that, and I know your intentions are good, and you care so very deeply about your students. I know that. I do know that. And I want to tell you guys all how, I'll get to it, but I'll tell you how I finally got the kinder teachers on board. But first, let's break down. I think let's start with some of the common mistakes that, we can make in these conversations. So after all that, right, the referral flood, the kinder pressure, the parent requests, the whole whirlwind. That should have been my song. My song really should have been Whirlwind by Lainey Wilson, but I don't want to lay too much country on you because I really want to share my interests that are diverse in music. But Whirlwind is a good one by Lainey Wilson, and that's, what we're in. But, let's talk about what to actually do when you're in, these whirlwind moments, because these conversations with teachers and parents can get tricky and get tricky fast. So here's some ways to really, I would say, navigate them without burning out or blowing up or ghosting in the staff lounge. I'm not eating lunch. Nope. You will not catch me in the cafeteria with the other teachers during lunchtime, right? Okay, well, I get it. So I know it feels awkward to tell a teacher, well, we need to touch base first, or to push back on a parent gently. You might worry about being like, am I the mean SLP, or I don't want to cause any drama. And yeah, that's all normal. And these strategies, I want you to look at them as they're not about being perfect. I always say it's not about being perfect. They're about just giving you tools to stay grounded, emotionally regulated, calm, confident, even when your nervous system is lit up, even when it feels scary. And if you've been following along with episodes 1 through 3, you know that we've been building the toolkit, right, on managing reactivity and setting up these mental rehearsals. I am calm, I am focused, I am present, right? And grounding ourselves to really stay in the moment as it is. And these strategies are like the next level, right? We're layering it on, we're putting it all into action now with teachers and parents. So what I want to share with you really is, set boundaries early, kindly and student-centered. You're not being difficult. You're being clear. Okay. You're being clear. So for example, I want to make sure that our plan is consistent. Can we check in together before any changes are shared with the family? Okay. So this communicates, it's about the student, not about power or about control. The next is that we're going to use nonviolent communication, or NVC, as I refer to it with the acronym, in real time. Remember, we memorized it. Observations, feeling, needs, requests. We're going to be bringing this up all the time. So I'm sure it's cemented in your brain by now. Observations, feelings, needs, requests. We're going to use this in real time because this keeps you grounded instead of reactive, especially when you're internally screaming and steam is coming out of your ears. I'm thinking of a cartoon character and I don't know its name, where it used to have like the steam coming out. So, this might look like, I noticed that you told the family that Benny needs tested, and I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm needing our collaboration to happen first on this student. Would you be willing to come to me first before you make an assessment request with the parent? Okay. NVC in real time. We're going to talk about how to address oversights without blame. Okay. We need to remove the blame, the shame, the judgment, so we can lower the walls and we can come together and be more collaborative. So if a teacher is scheduling assessments or communicates with parents without looping you in, I want you to try something like this. Again, personalize it, make it your own. It's a structure, not a performance. I really appreciate your initiative. For next time, can we touch base first so that we're aligned and we can communicate consistently with these families? So what you're doing is you're naming the issue while you're still preserving the relationship. Next is keep parents in the loop neutrally. We've talked about neutrally. It's stripping down all your opinions and judgments and evaluations and sticking just to the facts. Okay? So when things start to shift, I want you to summarize without the drama. Okay? Save the drama for your mama. Leave it behind. Just a quick update. Okay? Here's what we're trying at school to support your child, and we'll keep you posted on how it goes. Okay? Here's what we're trying. We're going to keep you posted on how it goes. This prevents confusion, and it actually protects the trust that you're building with the parents. The next step is lead with curiosity, not accusation. Ask questions. Seek first to understand and not be understood. Okay? I know you got your idea. I know you've got your story. You might have even mentally rehearsed it and you're very strong and passionate about it. But I want you to lead with questions like, what's working for you in class if you're talking to the teacher? Or if you're talking to the parent, what challenges are you seeing in the home? Because curiosity is going to open those doors, and defensiveness, we know, slams them shut. Okay? We're not building bridges when we are coming in with shame and blame. All right, document like your future self is the audience. No kidding. Like, that's one of the biggest things that stuck out from grad school. I remember them telling me if you don't document it, it didn't happen. Document, document, document. I know you've heard that a million times. Like, your future self depends on it, okay? Quick notes, emails, shared Google Doc. I love Google Doc for that. Nothing fancy. It just protects you and it keeps the teachers and the parents and the admins, keeps everybody all on the same page. And all this to say also, put it in an email if you can, like have something that shows what was said and done. One of the things I love about emails is that you can go back to your email search and you can search for, certain keywords, and then you can find the emails that have those conversations. Oh, look, we talked on this date saying we were going to do X, Y, and Z by that date. I really want to be consistent. I want to make sure, we're all on the same page. Let's follow up about this. Or, on this day, we talked about doing this or that. We were all in agreement. How's that been going for everybody? So that way no one says, well, I didn't say it, or you didn't talk to me. So when we can create some type of documentation that's going to really support you. And then the next one is always bring it back to the student. We know we're student-centered. We know this. The students are very important. We always keep them at the forefront of everything, okay? When boundaries are framed around student progress, it's noticed that there's less opportunity for people to push back. So what do I mean by this? Here's an example. I noticed the AAC plan changed. I want to make sure that it stays consistent for the student so he or she or they can make progress. Okay. Here's the deal. At the end of the day, that's the through line. It's not my way or your way or the highway. My way or the highway, or it's not my way, it's not your way, it's not even the highway. Even though we're on this morning commute, it's not about that. It's about what's actually going to support the student and what's going to support them best. All right, so I want to take a moment now and I want to jump into just a little micro exercise for your commute. All right, so it's time for this quick mental reset, if you will. And you can do this, while you're commuting. Some people are commuting on foot, some by train, I just went with my team to Catalina Island, and we had a company gathering and we got to take a ferry. It's 26 miles across the sea out of Long Beach, California, and you get to go to Avalon, Catalina, and it's this little island 26 miles out. Beautiful little island. I don't know if you've ever been there or heard of it, but it is owned and operated by LAUSD, Los Angeles Unified School District. The school system is, sorry. So, and there is one school there. So there is actually a speech therapist that travels and commutes out to the island. So we were joking around, like, how do they get there? Do they take the helicopter in 20 minutes? Do they take, the ferry every day for an hour there and an hour back? I don't think they're swimming. 26 miles out in the Pacific is a lot, but so, however you're commuting, this is a quick mental reset for you. And the first step is really just to think of a conversation that you are dreading with either a teacher or a parent. Okay? Just we're thinking about that conversation. And I know just even thinking about the conversation, sometimes it's like my pulse is quickening, my heart's racing, or your shoulders just start to tense, or you can actually feel like the physical resistance in your body. And that's why we're hitting the pause right here in thinking about that. Because even 2 minutes of this mental rehearsal, it's going to help your brain start to relax, and it's going to remind you, hey, I got this. I can handle this. It's okay to feel nervous. It's okay that it's going to be challenging, but I can do this. I can do hard things. Step 2 is to take that pause, okay? So we're taking our deep breath in. Let's do that together now. Deep breath in and exhaling. And as a quick reminder, when we're pausing and we're taking that deep breath, a true good grounding breath is where we can actually take our hand if it feels comfortable and place it on our belly so that it is a belly breath. And we're breathing in that deep breath in through the nose, and we're exhaling out through the mouth. When you're inhaling in, you might feel at the tip of your nostrils, you feel the air coming into the back of your throat, you might feel your shoulders rise, you might feel your belly go out, and then we're doing that exhale. So we're taking that pause and we're taking that thoughtful breath, that mindful breath, just to check in. And in that pause, we're saying, okay, I notice that I'm feeling frustrated or anxious or stressed. And I know that's because I'm needing collaboration or consistency, or I'm needing clarity right now. And that third step, the first step, thinking of the conversation, the second step, pausing, that third step is visualizing the conversation. And now we're using that nonviolent communication, observation, feeling, need, request. And you're imagining, what is my tone? Is it calm? Am I being clear? Am I being collaborative? Have I, stripped it from evaluation and my opinions? Am I using universal feelings and universal thoughts? Am I considering their perspective? And every 2 minutes of this just sort of like primes you to approach tough conversations now with more confidence. And it helps to keep teachers and parents aligned. And I know you might be thinking, wait, just by visualizing this, like, oh, or, some people think it's woo-woo to do visualization strategies, but there's actually a fascinating study out there. And the study comes out of Harvard, where researchers have looked at people who were learning like short piano pieces. And one group physically with their hands, practice on a real keyboard, white keys, black keys, keystrokes with their fingers. And the other group didn't touch a piano at all. They just did the mental rehearsal in their mind. So they're thinking about their fingers touching the white keys, the ivory keys, the black keys. They're rehearsing it over and over in their minds. They're visualizing their fingers moving. They hear the music internally. They're imagining themselves now playing that music. And this is the Harvard study. And here's the part that I think it still blows my mind. When researchers looked at the brain, both groups, the ones physically playing and the ones mentally rehearsing, showed changes in the areas responsible for movement and learning. So what does this say? This says that even the people who only imagine practicing, they also created new neural pathways. So your brain, it does not fully distinguish between doing something and vividly rehearsing that same something. And this applies also directly to communication. When you mentally rehearse a hard conversation and you're picturing yourself grounded and you're imagining the words that you want to say, you're seeing yourself standing there, seeing yourself responding instead of just reacting. You're not pretending, right? You're practicing. What you're doing is you're training your nervous system for the moment happens. So this visualization, it makes that tough conversation feel more like it's first trial, right? I'm sorry, it feels less like a performance. So, and more like a practice, a rehearsal, a trial, right? So it doesn't feel like it's this performance. It's more like this rehearsal now that like I've already kind of run through over and over in my mind, even if it only took 2 minutes. And this is why you will show up calmer and clearer and more confident when this real conversation actually starts to take place. So take from that you can mentally rehearse, think of that conversation you're dreading, put a pause in it, take that slow, steady, deep breath or two if you need it. Remember how important that pause is that we talked about in episode 1. Visualize the conversation using the 4-step pathway that we really honed in on episode 2. The 4-step framework, observations, feelings, needs, requests, mentally rehearsing just for a couple minutes, maybe a couple times before the conversation happens, has amazing benefits. Okay. All right. So the question is, like, we all know that there's going to be pitfalls then. Like, well, what do I do when I get in there and there's some pitfalls? How do I try to maintain that peace, right? How do I keep the peace in the conversation and also set boundaries? I listened to Dr. Becky Good Insight on the podcast. And I love how she always stresses, and she's like, both can be true. You can keep the peace and set boundaries. And I feel like when I say that too, and I do the and, I'm like channeling the Dr. Becky Good Inside in me. So, but it's so true. We can do both. So I love the and rather than the but or the or the nor. So anyways, let's look at some of those pitfalls. The first one is avoid over apologizing or just giving in, right? Teachers, parents, they're going to push. They might push. There's times that you've pushed, right? Because we're so passionate and we believe in what we're pushing for. Well, you can say, I hear your concern. Here's what's realistic for this month. I hear your concern. Here's what's realistic for this month. The second is don't let others sort of sideline your professional input. So let me give you an example, nonviolent communication script. I noticed that the plan changed without consulting with me. I feel very concerned because I want consistency, in the support. Can we discuss next steps together tomorrow around 9 a.m.? I noticed the plans changed without me. I'm very concerned. I'm, really needing consistency. Can we discuss next steps together tomorrow at 9 a.m.? Okay, observation, feeling, needs, requests, non-judgmental, I language, lowering defensiveness, preventing stress and burnout, all the things that we've been talking about, okay? Document and follow up. Remember, document like your future self depends on it. Shared notes, emails, a quick message to keep everyone accountable, okay? And then the last is just always keeping the student first, okay? So that student first mindset is going to be super important. Always frame your requests and your boundaries around, what's really best for this student. And, this shifts now the focus. We're shifting the focus from your personality, my personality, their personality to like, we need to collaborate. We need to collaborate together and problem solve and come up with solutions because this child is the most important thing. And this is what we're here for. This is our clear purpose. And we need some action items to put into place now so we can support them fully. Let's get to that collaboration and remove back a little bit from, all the little personality stuff that's going on. So let's recap this. Let's kind of recap this episode where we've been sort of navigating through. And I hope you're seeing now why I really picked that Tom Petty song, I Won't Back Down. Okay? It's like Tom Petty and Dr. Becky Good Inside. I won't back down, and I know your needs matter also, okay? So we're fusing Tom Petty and Dr. Becky Good Inside. So be sure to jump over to Spotify, and after this episode, really turn it up loud from my playlist, The Morning Commute. And again, my profile is golden.state.slp. You can get that Tom Petty. You can crank it up. You can play the I Won't Back Down so that you're walking into, your place of work or wherever you're going, really feeling confident and empowered. And I feel like sometimes the louder I turn up the music, the more empowered I get. I don't know if anybody else sort of feels that way also, but let's recap this. All right. We are setting boundaries early. Okay. Like August, September early, like when we're coming in, or once we kind of learn and we know better, we do better, right? Okay. Because sometimes we don't always know where those boundaries need to be set. But once we do, we start to put the wheels in motion and we start to make it happen with teachers, with parents, with colleagues, with mentees, at home with your partner or your pet. Set your boundaries early. Okay. Then we're going to use nonviolent communication. Okay. That compassionate communication, that framework, observations, feelings, needs, requests. And we're thinking about that. Okay. And we're mentally rehearsing that. And we're thinking about what we can say, where we're removing our evaluation, we're putting in our universal feelings, universal needs, and we're making requests that are going to enrich our life, enrich the life of others to try to meet as many needs as possible. All right, we're leading with curiosity, okay? Seek to understand before being understood. I love that quote. Easier said than done. Truth. Ask the questions, okay? Ask the questions instead of coming in with the blame. Learn more, educate yourself more. Walk in thinking, there might be something I need to learn here. There might be something I don't know. What don't I know that I need to discover or unveil in this moment? Okay? Document and follow up. Write it down. Put it in a Google Sheet. Put it in an email. Put it in your paradigm notes. Wherever you guys track and keep your information, write it down on a hard piece of paper in the student's file. Document, document, document. Okay, if a teacher sends you a handwritten note, save it. file it. Keep everything, okay, when the referrals are coming in so that you have proof of all the referrals that are coming in. When teachers pass you in the hallway and say, I have this new student, I always say, you know what? I'm going to pin you there. I want to hear all about it. Put it in an email for me because I'm not going to remember all this right now and I'm on my way to wherever, okay? Or if you're not on your way or wherever, you've got all the time in the world, be like, you know what? If you put it down in email, I'm going to remember so much more than like my memory right now. Or write it down and put it on my desk, okay? Encourage that documentation and follow up on it. And anytime you're following up, document that you followed up. I keep a parent log and I document that, I called them on this day, they didn't answer and I left a voicemail. Called them on this day, they answered, we talked about these things, parent was in an agreement. Parent called me on this day, but didn't get me and a note was left. I returned parent's call on this day at this time. Keep a running log of that. So when the parent comes in and says, well, I haven't heard from you, you can pull out your log because how are you going to keep track of all these kiddos? You've got your log. You don't have to remember. Okay. A short pencil is better than a long memory. Write it down. Well, actually, you called me this day. I called you back, but I left you a voicemail. We talked here. It's sounding like you would like to connect with me more. Is that what I'm hearing? All right. And then keep the student as your North Star. That's your anchor. That's your anchor. Okay. They're your North Star. Remember, handling these difficult conversations, you're going to have them. We're going to have difficult, challenging conversations with everybody. Handling difficult conversations well with teachers is going to ripple out. It's going to directly improve your communication with parents now. As you start to practice these skills and low stake building up to high stake conversations with people, it's going to ripple out into all the lives that you touch and vice versa. But parents, teachers, you guys on the team, we all need clarity. We all need empathy. We all need collaboration to make this progress really possible. So try the mini, micro exercise that I shared with you. Try it today while commuting. Even just a few minutes of that mental prep can change your approach. If it feels safe to do so in your commute. If it doesn't, please don't. Wait until you're not operating a vehicle or riding your bicycle or walking across the traffic with your earbuds in. That's okay. But it is a suggestion for you. And as I'm signing off, remember that little story I told you about the kinder teachers and Noah's Ark and the flooding referrals coming in for me? Yeah. So I finally said enough and I set my boundaries and I put together, this little cheat sheet for the kinder teachers, what's typical, what's not, the 4 ed code criteria for testing and, how you qualify and a quick little note, via email to document about why testing kids is, unnecessary. It can actually be a disservice if it's not truly warranted. It takes the kids' time and their energy and their class time. And, if they need to be tested later on, repeating tests is another roadblock. So I email it to them. And there was this like straight up aha moment. One teacher literally said to me, well, I didn't know those sounds were supposed to come in later. Why didn't I ever know that? This teacher has been there for a long time. So, and they thanked me. So after that, I will say the referrals slowed down and the ones that actually came in made more sense. So, cheers. We're keeping our students as the North Star. And I'm really excited about that. And here's a bonus, like our hallway vibes improved and like the energy was good and passing each other feels less awkward when you're afraid like, oh, if I pass that teacher, they're going to throw a bunch more referrals at me. Let me be that person that's like hiding, right? I did a reel for that on Instagram. That's like hiding in the air conditioning duct so I'm not seen, right? It's a win-win. It's a win-win for everybody. And it's saving them time from doing all these referrals and putting their energy back into the kids who actually need it. So, win-win. Was it a perfect scenario? After all, maybe not, but a bit less workload for myself. And I will take that as a win. And if you're thinking, oh, Stephanie, it's okay. I can survive that one tricky conversation, but it's actually my whole caseload that's a hot mess that I'm trying to deal with right now. So what do you suggest for that? Stay tuned because that's going to be all episode 5. We are just like going nose in, diving deep into caseload overwhelm and what it really feels like and some realistic, actually like doable solutions to stop drowning in referrals and IEPs and therapy prep. So I want you to think less panic, more control, because yes, you can manage it all without losing your mind. So big love to you all, teachers, parents, SLPs, OT, all the therapists out there. I see you hustling through the back-to-back emails and those endless meetings and all those little moments where maybe you feel seen or unseen or not heard or valued. And I see you keeping your students first. I do, while you're also juggling a million other things. And you're doing hard work and you're doing it really well. So slide into my DMs on Instagram at golden.state.slp with your school-based drama. I'll drop you some of my 2 cents. And again, if you want that full episode energy, vibe out with golden.state.slp playlist on Spotify. And I will see you on our next morning commute. Take care, everybody.